Hi, it's Rebecca Douglas, Reflections from the Saddle. Warm hello to you. We are here answering questions that people have sent to me about their horse, and they want advice, or they have a concern, they want help, and I'm here to answer those questions. So today's question is, my horse is really lazy and won't go forward. Can you help? So this can be a serious problem, and it can be just a pain in the butt problem. The serious aspect of this is a horse that was never taught to go forward properly and gently and encouraged to do it in the right way from the very start can get very confused about what the leg means and not respond appropriately to it. And these horses can actually learn to balk and rear. And that is a behavioral modification, a strong behavioral modification that usually takes a very savvy horse owner or a very savvy trainer, and sometimes someone on the ground to help them if you're under saddle, and sometimes it takes someone on the ground. The aspect of this is that horses aren't or don't inherently know to move forward off the leg. Like, it's not something that they're born with. So you have to teach them what that cue means. So in the very starting of a horse, that is what the trainer teaches the horse. They teach them how to go, they teach them how to whoa, they teach them how to turn. That's like the very basics that they learn when they're 3. If you are having issues at that point, you need to get professional help to start your horse. I'm just going to say that because what they learn when they're 3 will make all the difference when they're 5, 6, 7, and 8. So they need to learn it correctly. And there needs to be a systematic, gentle way of going from a very light aid to a strong aid to get the response and training the light aid. So something to keep in mind with this is that you always start with the lightest aid possible. The aid that you want to use as the cue to get them to do what you want. You slowly increase the intensity and or the duration of that aid until you get a response. Then you repeat with the lightest aid possible. Now, there's ways to reinforce that aid with voice aids that you've taught the horse on the ground. So this is what happens when you start a horse. You teach it that if you say walk, it walks off. And you do that by, if you say walk and it doesn't walk, maybe you raise a whip. And if it doesn't walk from that, maybe you shake the whip. And if it doesn't walk from that, then you swing the whip. I'm not an advocate of hitting the horse with the whip unless you can absolutely get no response. But then you have to go back to gentle it because you do not want it to be scared of the whip. But see how you slowly escalate. So when you're on the horse and say that the horse, you do a light squeeze and the horse doesn't go forward. Then you do a stronger squeeze, the horse doesn't go forward. Then you're going to back that up with some spur or maybe a whip to get the response. Now, if you're so far along that you squeeze and you squeeze harder and you squeeze longer and you tap them with the whip and then you hit them with the whip and then they're still not going, this is when a lot of times it's helpful to have someone on the ground reinforce what that aid means. So that if they learned it on the ground and now they're having trouble doing it under saddle, to have someone on the ground help you with that. If, though, you have a horse that is just lazy and knows how to go forward from the leg, but kind of like goes forward and then slows down, and then goes forward and slows down, you just have to sensitize them to the aid. And that basically means using the light aid as possible, going through that series of increasing the aid until they respond, going back and repeating the light aid, and doing that until you get them moving off that light aid. And the reason why that works is it's cue building. Basically, this is the cue you want them to respond to. You always put that before the cue that they know. So if they know to go forward from kicking, but you first do a light aid and then a little stronger aid and then longer duration, and then you give them a little tap with the whip or a little touch with the spur, and then they go forward, you're ultimately training them to be sensitive to that light aid. So that's how you do that progression there. But you also then have to be careful that you're not nagging them. So I've taught talked about, you know, a horse that's lazy has to learn to go with their leg off. So that means that not every stride are you putting your leg on to keep them going. They're responsible to keep that energy going until you ask them to do something else. And you teach that by, let's say you want them to trot off. You close your leg, they trot off, and they slowly, they kind of lessen. Don't keep just every stride say, no, keep trotting. Let them fail and say, no, keep trotting. And then, you know, and then you relax. And when they start to slow back up, you let them fail again, and then you say, no, keep trotting. And I'm telling you, it works. The horse will start to become more sensitive. Where we've gotten into a lot of problems is horses that have been nagged for years. So the person wears big spurs, nags them every stride, clucks every stride, taps them with the whip every third stride. That horse has basically been desensitized to not respond to the aid. And that's where most of the problems arise. So in those cases, it is helpful to get professional help, because usually a professional can get on and in 1 or 2 rides get that horse sharpened back up pretty quickly.